Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Ever wonder what was out there before Vivaldi's The Four Seasons? I mean, he couldn't have been the first guy to do the seasons. They're very popular. In fact, there are billions of musical representations of the Four Seasons. There always have been. It's a logical topic. But I'm thinking of something, a prequel to Vivaldi, that's just a little more pertinent to this discussion. I didn't even know this thing existed until the folks at Divine Art mentioned it to me, and here it is, because I have permission to play samples. Oh boy, we're going to have a good time. This is Giovanni Antonio Guido, and he wrote 4 concertos called Le Quattro Stagioni. And not only are they 4 concertos, Baroque concertos representing the 4 seasons, but beyond that, they are 4 concertos that illustrate 4 poems about the 4 seasons, just like Vivaldi did. And each stanza of the poem has a corresponding bit of concertodom, which is really kind of creepily, eerily similar, isn't it? The only question actually is which one came first. On internal evidence, it seems that Guido came first and that Vivaldi might have been inspired by Guido to do his own 4 seasons. They're quite different works. Vivaldi's concertos were written around 1723. They were published in 1725. And as some of you may know, who are fans of the 4 seasons, they are in the latest, modern, sleek, up-to-date concerto form. That is 3 movements for each concerto, that wonderful, what was to become classical concerto form, but which was actually invented back in Vivaldi's day, and it was later picked up by Bach and C.P.E. Bach and all these other people. But Baroque concertos, concerti grossi, as originally conceived back in the old days, had lots and lots and lots of teeny, teeny, tiny movements. They could start with anything, they could go anywhere, they could do anything, you could have as many as you wanted. And that's how they really got going until Vivaldi and his crew standardized the form in terms of 3-ish movements. One of the reasons we believe that Guido's music may have come first is that his concerti are concerti in the old style. But they were written in France, where the 3-movement Italian concerto hadn't quite caught on yet, so they could have been composed. It seems that they were composed about 6, 7, maybe 8 years before Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. That's how it seems. They are much larger works. The 4 of them take over an hour in these absolutely superb performances, by the way, with the band of instruments. Evocative name, whatever that is. It's 7 string players plus a harpsichord, in case you were wondering what the band of instruments was. But they are excellent players, and they do a great job with this stuff. They really do. I mean, these are concerti just like Vivaldi's conceptually, but quite different in the way they work out, because they have lots of movements, and those movements illustrate bits of the poem actually rather more closely than happens in Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. So if you are curious about the poems and all that, well, you can find them easily enough online, or they come with recordings of the Four Seasons, or you can get the cheap Dover score. They're all there. And these, fortunately, have the poems here, but they are only in French, because they were written in French, and because Guido was actually operating, as I said, in France in the French style. And the music sounds rather French. It doesn't have that same sort of sunny Italianate lyricism that Vivaldi has. It's a little bit more restrained, a little bit more, what would you say, stylized, I think is the word. You know, his imitations are imitations, but they're also, you think of the French clavecin composers, you think of Rameau and Couperin and stuff when you hear these. You really do. But they are marvelous works, absolutely splendid. And I would like to sort of play you some samples and let you know what they sound like. As I said, they're larger than the Vivaldi concertos. A couple of them are nearly 20 minutes long, which is basically double the length of your average Vivaldi concerto. And I actually got smart finally and brought my magnifying glass so I can see They describe what these concertos are, and you get, for some reason, they decided to do these one track per concerto, but tell you in the booklet what everything represents and at what track timing you hear what they're talking about. So it's convenient to get around, but not I think as user friendly as it could have been. But that's all right. That was the way they did it, and that's how they did it. So, I'll play a bit of things here. Spring, here we go, includes, are we ready? Let's see. Oh my goodness. Time is flying. And then there's night. And then there's every season does something to itself in French. And then we've got birds. Oh yeah, birds. And then a trumpet air. And then a musette, a really charming musette. Musette is like a little bagpipe piece, a pastoral bagpipe piece. And then, of course, because it's a pastoral four seasons-y thingy, we have the dance of the shepherds. Now, you gotta have peasants and shepherds, and they have to dance. For some reason, they have nothing better to do with their time. When I was studying sociology, my understanding of peasantry was that they were miserable, filthy, disgusting people who lived at a subsistence level and were always on the verge of death by starvation. But apparently, in the Baroque period, peasants were happy-go-lucky types who ran around dancing and prancing, and shepherds. Oh my God, shepherds! I mean, they had nothing better to do than dance around because the sheep basically took care of themselves, didn't they? So here is the zippy-dippy happy dance of the shepherds from Spring. Delicious, isn't it? Absolutely charmant. Really, really cute. I mean, it's charming music. It's lovely. And the players really dig into it. I mean, it's really good performance. All right. Summer is the longest of the concertos. It's 19 minutes and 20 seconds of this performance. And it has all kinds of nifty things happening. We have hot air because it's summer. And the winds disappear, there's deadness. Remember Vivaldi did that, that stillness of summer. And then there's the song of the cuckoo, because you got to have birds. You have birds everywhere. I mean, the seasons wouldn't be the seasons without birds. I mean, especially the bird thing. And here is the song of the cuckoo. And boy, this is one hyperactive cuckoo. I'm sure you'll agree. Here it is. No mistaking that one, is there? And of course, what would summer be without a thunderstorm? You gotta have a storm because it's the seasons and you get thunderstorms in the summer. And Guido is more than happy to oblige us with a very effective and quite extended. These are longish movements. They really are, even though they have a lot of internal repetition. Listen to this. This storm really gets going, especially towards the end of this extract. With the bass line really rumbling and tumbling. It's pretty amazing. Now, after summer, of course, comes autumn. I'm not going to play any more musical examples. You get the sense of what it is from those three. Autumn, of course, has the hunt. You gotta have a hunt in the autumn, absolutely. And you've got the hunters get going, and the stag runs away, and then the stag gets killed, and the stag dies, and then everybody has a snack based on the stag. Oh, it's a hunt. It's marvelous. And then in winter, of course, is icy cold. And so there's an extended meditation on the pensive futility and end of life and the coldness and how it represents death and fragility and whatnot. And then there's like a war is going on in the winter. For some reason, there's some soldiers marching around. It's kind of like Bieber's Battaglia. But after the soldiers march around, everybody has a party because you all get drunk in the winter. It makes you feel warmer if you sip from your cask or your flask or whatever it is you get. And it ends, of course, with general jubilation and rejoicing. And that is the Four Seasons by Guido. Now, the curious thing about this guy, Giovanni Antonio Guido, is that we know practically nothing about him. There's a very, very extensive booklet, very well written, extraordinarily well researched, all of which tells us that we basically know nothing about this guy, what he was doing, how he was doing it, why he did it, who he did it for. We have no idea. We don't even know his dates. We know that he was born around 1675, and he died sometime after 1728. His name pops up in connection with various royal personages, so he obviously had a career, but exactly who he was and what he did, we don't know. But these concerti were beautifully published with their poems and with lovely illustrations of each season. It was obviously an aristocratic commission and kind of a big deal in its day, and that's why we believe that Vivaldi might have known something of them, and that way was able to use these as inspiration for his own four concerti somewhat later. But it is entirely possible that it's the other way around. It is possible because we just don't have the facts. But I think it's better, for my purposes of giving a talk, if the Guido is the prequel to the Vivaldi, and whether it is or it isn't doesn't make a damn bit of difference because it's wonderful music, splendid Baroque music. And if you like the Four Seasons, you are really going to want Mr. Guido's Le Quattro Stagioni, the Four Seasons, as performed by the Band of Instruments on Divine Art Records. This is a real find, people. It really is. It's an exceptional, wonderful little discovery, another fabulous niche in the Baroque repertoire, which actually, the more you look at it, seems to have a heck of a lot of niches to explore. And we're going to have a very good time doing it because, there's this rumor. It's a rumor. I've been actually guilty of fostering that rumor that all Baroque music kind of sounds the same, because a lot of Baroque music really does sound the same. But there's also a lot of Baroque music out there that sounds different. It doesn't sound the same. You just have to find it because there's so much of it. You got to dig around a little bit, and this may not be obvious, but it really does sound different, like itself. And Mr. Giovanni Antonio Guido, his Four Seasons is one of those special pieces. So do give it a try. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised, and you're really going to enjoy the playing by the band of instruments, because they play instruments and they play them very, very well. So there you go. A musical prequel. Who knew it even existed? It's so cool to be able to find this stuff and talk to you about it. So I don't just sit there by myself doing, ooh, look at this. It's so cool. I'm the only one in the world who knows about it. Now you do too. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Take care.